Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to a brand new movie review, and as you can see this is a part of the series known as the Path to Infinity War, where I'm going to be looking back on each and every film within the Marvel Cinematic Universe up until the release of Avengers Infinity War. And it's about time that we finally reached to the beginning of Phase 3. And this phase really did kick off with a huge bang in what I would consider to be the biggest film in the MCU thus far, which is of course Captain America Civil War. And many people seem to put this film at a very high pedestal, to the point where people say that this film should be the definitive Avengers sequel. And I know I did a review on this years ago, but truth be told I want to do it again purely because the quality of that review wasn't very good. But does this film really still hold up to this very day? Well, let's find out. So after a huge incident took place in which actually revolves around the Avengers, the government decides to push the Hero Registration Act, which is known as the Sokovia Accords. Meaning that if the heroes want to do their jobs, then they have to do it the government's way. And if they decide to go against the Accords, then that means that they are automatically a fugitive. On one side we have Captain America, who wants to do the good of mankind no matter what, and doesn't trust the government at all, mainly because they're pretty much corrupt. While on the other side we have Iron Man, who does believe that all of the heroes should be in check. And clearly it does leave all of the Avengers divided. And unlike the other movies that came before, this is a personal story between the Avengers themselves. But the real question is, does Captain America Civil War still hold up to this very day? And to tell you the truth, it really does. Because the truth is, Captain America Civil War is easily one of the best films in the MCU, if not the best. At this point it's pretty much redundant to praise both Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. as Captain America and Iron Man respectively, but truth be told, they are at their A game in this film. And easily both of these actors pull off their best performances as their respective characters. And both of them do have legitimate good points towards this debate. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier also has a very interesting character arc in this entire film. And it's great to see Bucky Barnes actually have some character development in there. Scarlett Johansson is as brilliant as ever as the Black Widow, and she always keeps us guessing on where her alignment really lies. Anthony Mackie is as charming as ever as Falcon, and it is great to see him actually do more stuff in this film. Don Cheadle as War Machine was also very good, and it's great to see that we actually get to see more development between him and Tony Stark. Despite how Hawkeye as well as several other characters in this film do seem a little shoehorned into the plot, it's always great to see Jeremy Renner actually kick some ass. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany do a fantastic job as both Scarlet Witch and Vision respectively, and it's great to see where their relationship will be heading within the future. Paul Rudd comes back as Ant-Man, or rather Giant Man, in this film, and he is just as charming as he was in his standalone film. And when it comes down to newcomers, Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther is absolutely phenomenal and easily my favourite character in the entire film. He has a really interesting character arc, and he does have just enough time to actually fulfill his development. And plus his inclusion felt organic. And lastly we have the other newcomer in the name of Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and although it is pretty clear that he was shoehorned in, I can easily forget that because he is an absolute scene stealer. And yeah, I did say that his inclusion seemed a little shoehorned in, but at the very least he was used sparingly. Not to mention we have Daniel Bruhl as the main villain of the film, Zemo. And you know what, I actually really enjoyed this villain because he does have interesting motivations, and he actually does succeed in doing something that most villains could never quite pull off, and that is of course dismantling the Avengers. Was his ultimate plan incredibly elaborate? Well, yeah, but at the very least he served his purpose. And lastly we have Frank Grillo as Crossbones, and admittedly I do wish we had a bit more of him. At the very least another scene with him. The action scenes in this movie are easily the most memorable in the entire MCU thus far. And there's no two ways about it, but the airport scene is easily the best fight we've ever seen in a superhero film. And even the final fight between Captain America, Bucky and Iron Man was also a huge highlight. It was memorable, emotional, brutal, and just all around amazing. In terms of the CG, it does work for the most part, but in certain areas I do feel like it did seem a little too shaky, most specifically with Spider-Man. But at the same time, it wasn't really too distracting to me. But easily the best parts in Captain America Civil War are of course the character interactions, as well as just how personal the stakes really are, because it's not quite Age of Ultron massive, but more on a personal level, and that's what I really love. Because sometimes the best conflicts aren't necessarily the biggest ones, but rather the personal ones between the the Avengers themselves. And you really do feel that rift between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, as well as how this conflict does affect the other Avengers like Vision, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, etc. And yeah, there are some flaws within Civil War, such as Zemo's plan as well as the shaky CG here and there, but for the most part they're only really just nitpicks. And although some people do say that this is technically Avengers 2.5, for the most part this is a Captain America sequel first and foremost. And for the most part this film centers around Captain America himself. Hell, even Tony Stark doesn't even overshadow this movie, and he does have his fair share of scenes. But ultimately, this film has the right balance of just about everything, really. This film is incredibly fun, but it's also incredibly personal. And honestly, I think all of the actors are at their best in this film. And in my opinion, it's between this film and Black Panther in what I would consider to be the best film in the MCU thus far. And that's how much I love Captain America Civil War. And so for the final verdict for Captain America Civil War, once again, like 2 years ago, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 10 out of 10. Because after all of these years since the film has been released, I still believe that this film deserves all the praise that it gets. And in my eyes, Captain America Civil War is easily in my top 5 favourite comic book films of all time. So what do you personally think of Captain America Civil War? Do you believe that's easily one of the best films within the MCU, or do you believe that's incredibly overrated? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.